All right, here we go. Buckle up. We're off roads ahead. Uh, One of the things that you have to figure out. Oops. Turning the headphones up too high. So, one of the things you have to figure out is the labor situation. You don't have to act on it, where as far as you need to have immigrants coming in and taking these jobs at this point. It looks to be based upon a kind of side conversation or just kind of in between the lines, as far as this one news article, that when you arrest the Latino people working in those places, the Latinos that are here are filling in behind them. I don't know if they're, what their status is. So, well, the labor department can project if there's possible shortfalls. Again, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, and they don't know. So any possible shortfalls, uh, thank you, Larry, should be identified, and then you can put out a, don't be so political that you can't, at least protect yourself if you need to. Say, look, we don't know if we're going to need these people. We're hoping that we, won't, but we're going to prepare a list of people outside the country who want to work in these fields. They'll have to be vetted and all that type of thing. So I would vet a certain number, begin working on all that. Well, that way you don't get into an exigent circumstance, and then we can't vet them right now, and then there'll be news articles. Trump didn't vet these people, and this person's DWI, and this other person's armed robbery or whatever it is. So you start now preparing a list of people that you can pull from. Maybe the employers have people, I don't know, that they recommend. I don't know what to tell you, because the answer was probably, the first Trump administration, and then COVID hit and it messed everything up. So, all right. So, well, we're moving in a direction to legitimize an immigrant workforce. Right. Well, real problem is there's a bunch of racketeering operations out there that they don't charge, and the immigrants are also part of it. There's white people in it. There's black people in it. Well, the problem is out there, and there's white people in it. There's red people. There's yellow people that are part of this kind of racketeering thing where they own the community, right? And you're not going to charge it because you don't want to act like it's happening. But the Latino people are probably paying some kickback funds somewhere, or payoffs or bribes to run these things. And it's probably, it's not the entire police department or every police department, but it's out there. So what's going on is that's why this whole rule down's occurring. And it's affecting almost everybody to a certain degree. But they're being ruled down because they're running racketeering operations against everyday Americans. If you don't have money in the United States, a Latino boss can come in and have you executed, whatever that extent that goes, from just, character assassination all the way up to dead. And these Latino bosses have drug money and everything else. So again, the system isn't really working yet. Regular. Because the racketeering organizations are still controlling law enforcement and where it goes. Yeah, if you look at that photo of Koch burger or whatever, the Kronberger, he probably was inside. He wasn't getting out, getting sick somehow, right? Because you look at him at the next photo. I should have put the other photo up there. He got out. He went because he left. He went home. He probably was getting sun. He was out in the world, right? And maybe somebody was operating. We don't know. We don't know if they're trying to create serial killers or not, right? Thanks, sorry. But it looks totally different, you know. That was that was right after the murder. You can see he looks sick. Right. I mean, physically, he looks sick. Right. Could be a metabolic thing. Who knows? Could have been drugging him too. Who knows? Right. Excellent. So I hope you're still watching. Almost finished. So again, you see how the deportation and like importation. So you block importation, so your deportation. I mean, yeah, it matters, but it doesn't matter like it did when the importation was going on. So if you're bringing in 200 people and you're importing 100, you still have 100 coming in. If you're deporting actually zero and you're not letting any in, you're doing actually better. Taking this guy's license plate. Cool. Right. So again, the trend is obviously there's been quite a few arrests of people that were wanted in foreign nations. So the United States became this community for Latinos to abscond into, which is crazy. They should feel, you know, that that's not the thing to do. Right. So the question is it happening the way I'm saying it happened? I mean, I know some places it is, but what's this guy living under like a racketeering rule? He does favors for the bosses, and he didn't have nothing to worry about. Right? Cops weren't going to arrest him. Nobody's going to arrest him here. Right. Believe me, I had people in my gym that were Mexicans, and others. They just work for a boss, man. If they say I don't get woman, they all get in the middle of it, along with the crooked cops. All right. Got a dine and dash on here. They're mad because it was a black run restaurant. And there's black people that dashed on them. I don't know if this is real. Raindrops for me. So a 17-year-old kid breaks down in tears, saying he has no one in his life, nowhere to go, no family, no friends, and nobody. He's been homeless for a week, and I hear all these women. Come live with me for free. Yeah, I get feedback here. That's right. They got pro-Iran groups protesting. Right. It's kind of a weird thing. Didn't know that existed here. Right. Thought they would stay on the ground. Right. Right. But So the judge issued a stay of deportation order. So what happens on that? Was that another mistake on the pastor's wife? Well, there's no guarantees. You have to understand that, right? So again, the end. The first part is if there was a stay and the judge says don't deport you and they did, that's wrong. But you have to understand because they go, well, we paid what they did, we filled out forms, we did it, but that's not how. Or even some people have like work visas for like 10 years and then they cancel the work visa. I mean, it's happened forever. This idea where like, oh, once you make it in the United States, as long as you don't commit a crime, now they're focusing on criminals, but the reality is that the system still is operating. In other words, they didn't get in and say, we're only going to deport criminals. Right? It's a focus. You still have the stay orders or the deportation orders. You still have the removal orders. You still have the process. What they're doing by canceling the process, I don't exactly understand that whole thing, how that's working. Well, because they were granted an amnesty status. And I guess the government's canceling that, right? The right to initiate. Now, there might be some due process concerns in that. I don't know. You have to be careful with that one because essentially, if somebody builds a life for 4 years based upon you saying you have a chance, and then you just go instead of actually hearing the case, right? And then deciding that they're removed at the end of the case, right? You're just kind of willy-nilly deciding, hey, we don't want to do that. And there might be a reason, but make sure you have a reason. Like this should have never been entered into before, from the beginning, and don't BS. Just say, if you look, there's no real amnesty case here, and we already know that, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. So that case looks kind of Right. Arturo Gamboa did not fire his rifle, accused of creating the dangerous situation that led to Afa Alu's death. Investigators looking into whether a safety volunteer was justified in firing his gun, according to police. Obviously, looking at that guy, I'd be afraid if he had a rifle. But but the reality is, it's just like what do they call the auditors when they carry a rifle? A cop just can't shoot them, right? So we have to see what happened there. This is pretty funny. Director of Intelligence, DOI. This is Trump pretty bad. Netanyahu and Khomeini. I guess this is the Saudis. Oh, there's Zelensky and they're like little kids. Oh no, they're refusing to join the money. Yeah, the regime's gonna fall if they got their money. It'd fall, but the regime's probably gonna fall. I guess they just got to feel like it's unsafe, and then they bug out, go to Russia or whatever it is. Like Larry. Now Trump's still being hunted, right? Senate Republicans stand with President Trump. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. Now you're still being hunted, leaving. You're being set up every day. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Excellent. You have to be careful of Laura Loomer having you fire people. I mean, there's a case to be made of that. I mean, there's not too many people left to make a case, but again, statute of limitations, and you're still within that window if you don't get the presidency. It's funny because in the LDS, like this guy's named David A. Bednar. He's a big guy. Right? He goes global. He's one of the, I guess, whatever they call him. Maybe he's one of the Quorum of 12. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's for the Quorum of 12. But there, you go to church and there's a lot of Bednars and stuff. So the LDS still has the family thing going, the family tree. Right. That's pretty funny. I would say it's not as bad as the Fundamental Baptist Church I was in. It's just all this, it's their little closed society, and they really don't help the church. I mean, right? Going on, I was the only one that was going on visitations and stuff, and I helped clean the church and stuff. I'm just not up to it right now. Well, a lot of times it's living a certain life, a healthy life. So, uh, yeah, it's Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ's power, but you're living a healthy life, and people have unhealthy life. So it's a lot more difficult to be where you all are. Again, gratitude is important for all of you because you really did receive a lot more than the rest of the world. Well, that's a great operation there in Fort Worth. Right. That's what I was talking about. Somebody's taking kickbacks for that not to have fallen before this. Right. I mean, I think Aurora was taking kickbacks. They came after me pretty hard and didn't find out they had gangs selling dope and shit. Right. Pardon my French there. All right. I got to make something to eat here. And I don't have, let me see if I can dial this in real quick and maybe switch midstream into a different. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go offline and then come back online, I guess. But actually, let me try to change the mic device. All right, this should be working. Let me take a look here. Testing on T3, testing. Yeah, there it is. So what I did was I just, in the middle of this, I was able to just switch over to a different device, which required some finesse, but looks like it's working great. But actually, what I have is, this is a lavalier without the other microphone, which doesn't work as well. Here's the other microphone. Let me check to see if I have power. sounds like clip will be unloaded. So it's still, we're still in dangerous territory. All right. Thanks, Larry. I gotta cook something here, and then I gotta get some exercise in. Well, I'm doing a metaphysical and a physical and a psychological analysis on what I'm doing. So that's what that is. It'll be done soon. I actually wanted to complete it, but something said just another day. It should be done today. Thank you, Larry. And I'm hoping somebody's watching. Right. Thank you, Larry. So I put my portable wireless go on, but what I need to do is to look to see if I'm almost out of power on that. Let me see if the other one comes up online and if I can use that one better. Yeah, they're older, so the batteries probably aren't holding its charges as well. I just had the other one. I just pulled the microphone out of, but I can't find it now. Oh, there it is. What am I looking at on this one? Oh, geez, even worse, I guess. They have to plug in, have to be charged. So I'm just about through on my battery power on this. Both of them are out of battery power. For whatever it's worth, oh geez, there they go again, trying to pull the microphone out. For what it's worth, I'm actually able to keep the apartment much cleaner now. And it wasn't that I just cleaned it, it's just there's a whole different energy moving around all of it, so I'm not sure what that is. Thank you, Larry. Plug that in. I could probably put a battery on this, but it would require me to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Make some rice here. So again, the idea is that this is a bit of a CYA, right? Based upon how you structure the government and all that, based upon your wins, not a lot of CYA required today, but you're going to need it down the road. So, all right. Yeah. Thanks, Larry. My plan kind of didn't work perfectly. I bought these sauces from Aldi, and they look good on paper as far as health and all that, but, and again, they still, I mean, it's not a lot of sodium in this. It's only, per serving is 190 milligrams. So I'm going to have to go with another tablespoon, which takes me outside of my intended range. So, and then maybe another tablespoon. So put me, you know, as long as it's 250 or below, I'm fine. So, you know, or something like that. So, well, because it's not as flavorful as the other one. So I was using a different brand, and it was a little thicker. This is a little thinner. It's a great price, but well, the ones at Walmart are thicker. You have to use, right? I think it probably ends up being the same amount of sodium. I thought this would decrease the sodium, but
So I'm at a point now where it was obvious that if I could have got to this point, and I could have if I had been left to be, when I was in Amarillo, I should have got the surgery. I should have went to Philadelphia, got the surgery, but I needed to release my, and you know, their organization may have been wanting it too, for me to get the release from all the neck stuff and all that, right? Because the weak link shows up, but you know, the rest is kind of dissipating a little bit, right? Right, so my left lumbar is kind of pinging. I don't know if I'll be able to pull that one off. We'll see. Well, because it gets too tight and then, you know, it messes everything else up, right? So, again, they did what they wanted. See, am I still on? Yeah, still broadcasting. I don't know how fast the other one charges up. But I'm down on a real low level. I have two transmitters. So again, fusing that lower spine was probably the right thought back then, but getting to it a little difficult. Well, you have to, you're going to have to do it. I mean, it's just, you may actually get an up from it. So what you're actually doing is you're looking at people that are outside the country, putting their name on a list for possible future work visas. Now, you don't know what fields you're going to need that in until you know. Now, you obviously know you're going to need it for agriculture at some point. Well, because what I think's happening, if I'm understanding what's going on from that news article, is as soon as you arrest a group of Latino people, and this may have been going on longer than this point, you know, another group of Latino people pick up the jobs, but they're maybe not any more legal than the others, or you know, have this sustenance. Again, they could be legal as far as having paperwork that says that they're, you know, in an amnesty process. Well, if you're canceling amnesty applications without it being heard, or in the middle of it being heard, there could be a repercussion from the courts, because they could say it's absolutely unfair that you would do that to them. You know, you represented something again, but you know, the underlying reality is there's no guarantee for any of it, right? The way the court would, I guess, generally see it is, you got 5 years in the United States, or 4 years, or 3 years. So that was, you know. No, there's no requirement to even give amnesty to somebody that deserves amnesty unless the court finds that. I mean, and you know, that's limited. No, I mean, they're acting like the system is, if you don't offend, that you get to stay here. That's not the system. You have an amnesty application. If they don't believe that you need amnesty, then you don't get it. Not to say that you don't need amnesty. Again, I'm not the judge. It's just, right. Well, essentially, I think must be something in the law, I'm thinking, by what they're doing, is that the government, in the initial process, the government agreed to your amnesty application. And they're no longer agreeing to it. I think that's what's happening. So they're just kind of reversing their decision. Which means there's no law that says you have to be given amnesty. Right. Right. When you came to the United States, other people were deported and didn't receive amnesty. And they're just simply putting you, what I believe is what they're doing, is they're putting you in that category. Now, there is some precedence to say that once they're given that hope, that maybe that hope, warrants a hearing. But again, the court doesn't, as of late, doesn't seem to be moving in that direction. Which means I don't think that that the court's necessarily going to even entertain it at this point. That's how the DACA was carried over. I thought they would do the same thing for the trans people, but they might do it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, so I'm going to see if this has charged up any. Yeah, it's charged. The other one's still working, so I'm not going to bother that one. I don't know, they might sound different too, I don't know. Well, even the Biden administration, in certain circumstances, acted the same way. So again, the idea where there's no precedence for government, this, that, not really. It wasn't maybe like this is immigration. There's other government processes where the Biden administration ripped people off. The average white guys, So we're stuck in that kind of battle. All right. Agree. We're kind of in a race, but it's, both sides are being racist. Again, Latinos are heavily supremacists and racist, and it's coming out in this, actually. Like, how dare they? And again, I know there's other people other than Latino, but it's mostly Latinos, right? Latinos are supremacists, man. Right. But that's why they tried to say, like, there is no supremacist outside of white supremacy. Because there's a ton of black and white supremacy within certain communities. And actually, there's Latino supremacy that goes against black people. Right. And there's even a Latino supremacy that go against immigrants. that are Latino. So again, it's a crazy world. Like, trying to broadcast some stuff into the mind. That could be what's playing out. Latino supremacy, like they're rolling them down for it. Oh, what are you doing now? I'll go and hopefully get this to work.
Law enforcement agencies say neighborhoods across Fort Worth are a whole lot safer tonight after an aggressive operation to combat violent crime. Caroline Vandergrift looks at the impact.
Our intention to reduce violent crime in Fort Worth, Texas. And we did it together.
Areas of Fort Worth with high crime rates were targeted in a 2-month initiative called Operation Showdown. 76 people were arrested on firearm and drug crimes.
Many of the individuals arrested in this operation are convicted violent felons. Others are in our country illegally and have suspected ties to the Venezuelan transnational criminal organization Tren de Aragua, also known as TDA.
287 guns were confiscated.
One firearm seized during the operation was found to have been utilized in a shooting just 3 hours before it was seized. 3 firearms were connected to homicides.
More than 22 kilos of cocaine, meth, heroin, and fentanyl are now off the streets as well.
And with the amount of contraband seized here, it's very apparent that there are some neighborhoods where parents can freely let their kids maybe have an afternoon play date out in that front yard or in that apartment complex parking lot or community area without fear that a drug transaction is transpiring just a few parking stalls away.
This announcement comes on the heels of a violent weekend in Fort Worth. 5 people were killed in 4 separate unrelated shootings this last Sunday. But officers say this operation has made the community safer, and their efforts to crack down on illegal gun and drug trafficking won't stop.
Granted, one loss of life is too many, but unfortunately, whenever those things happen, I can tell you the Fort Worth Police Department is dedicated to continue the work to prevent those from occurring in the future.
In Fort Worth, Caroline Vandergrift, CBS News, Texas.
Where you going there? This guy was wanted in Mexico for rape. So he flees to the United States. Not right. Used to be the other way around. Right. No, what kind of protection does he have here? That's just like that's psychological warfare there. They're showing the inside of the of the nuclear reactor. Right. I've had that used on me, that kind of stuff. Right. Thanks, sir. Okay. Great deal. All right. But I want to tell you, there has never been a time that I know of in the last probably 20 years at least, actually 15 years, maybe longer, that you could come across the border without having your devices gone through. Right. Probably longer, at least 20 years. Okay. So this idea with Trump administration is intruding is a lie. In every country, you can go online, and if you look up the border of Canada, they do it. Little Canada does it. Right. Australia does it. That's the case I was talking about there. I don't know what's going on there. The question is why she wasn't a citizen already. It doesn't make any sense. When did she start applying? I guess that's the question. Well, because they're saying she's been here for 30 years, but when did she start that process? Well, because how long has she been married to that guy? There's a lot of questions. And it might be legitimate, but well, because you probably should have went to your senator sooner or congressman. Right. That's the point. Right. A lot of people just sat around. I mean, I made mistakes in my life sitting around and not, making complaints about people. Right. Well, you probably should have got it, because I don't know how long to get married, that's the point. But once you get married to somebody, it don't take long. It's usually a smooth process. Right. Very easy to be. See? What they're doing is making a mess. Oh, I wonder if my thing's, oh, it's off. Yeah. No, it's on. In other words, letting too many people in has put a dent in the marriage process. The person that marries a U.S. citizen automatically, at a certain point, being naturalized. Because you let too many people in. Again, I told you, Biden really screwed it up. And possibly also Obama. I don't know. All right. Thank you, Larry. Well, because again, it becomes this thing in numbers. So they're trying to get the number down to a certain, whatever the target number is. Right? They may not even know that yet because the numbers are so large. So that's why everybody is being included. If Obama would have, or not Obama, if maybe Obama, I don't remember what I told him, if I told him anything. I believe in the dreamers. That part I believe in, but I believe that they should be required to make a statement, a written statement as to how they ended up here and who's culpable. Right. Well, if your mother brought you here, your father brought you here, or your aunt and your uncle, and they apply for citizenship, they can't get their citizenship if they smuggled you here and you get DACA. You'll get DACA, but they'll get the boot. Right. Thank you, Larry. Right. I guess we have some cases where the young person gets DACA and then they try to get their parents naturalized, and right, the parents are the ones that reason they got DACA. Right. No, the DACA is because somebody wronged you as a child and violated international law, essentially, and our law to bring you here. Correct. So yeah, there that is. That shows you how the numbers work.
Products on the border, 317 million worth.
The leadership of President Trump and Secretary Noem, we're getting the job done every day. We're going to continue breaking records. However, those records will be and the record numbers of people that we're not allowed to this country.
And I know that y'all are seizing a lot of counterfeit products on the border, 317 million worth in last month alone. You've also seized hundreds of pounds of drugs, including 718 pounds of fentanyl. What are the folks on the other side of the border saying? Obviously, they're getting the message.
So thousands of pounds, we said 200 pounds or 200 kilos seized just the other day. And so I want to make a very good point about our narcotic seizures and our seizures. It's not because more is being smuggled across, because the border is more secure. It's because agents are actually out there enforcing the law. Law enforcement officers are doing their job and not being stuck inside processing. And so, look, the cartels are getting frustrated, and they should, right? We have no intention of backing off. It is all gas, no brakes downhill. We're going to continue pushing until we break the backs of the cartels, and they're going to need to push their product to another country because we're closed.
All right. So he said downhill and close. Those are two bad terms. So you got to open your people back up, right? And go uphill instead of down. Well, yeah. But in the scripture, going uphill is good. Going downhill is bad, I think, generally speaking. And there's that funny thing. We have to understand some of these politicians that are on the take and cops are on the take, it's what I told you, is that they were extorted in. So it's not your typical I'm on the take and I just have to do without the money. They're all paranoid because they, at least made it look like they had the goods on them. It is what it is. Let me see. I think I'll grab this one and plug into this one. And charge the other one. Yeah, this one's got a little bit more power. Wait a minute, which one am I? There. Yeah, it's better. At least I have a little power on this one, but I gotta look at the volume meter, see where I am with it. All right, looks pretty good. Might be too loud even, I don't know. I'll plug this one in. That's what you have to do when you have two, you leapfrog it. You know, it's. I think the Surface Pros that were, you know, the i7 processors, they're holding their value because the Copilot, the ARM one, doesn't work on all that apps and software. So if I were to buy one, and then like I could get a newer one for the same price as generally the same price as the 7 Plus. And the 7 Plus is the last one that they made these rugged. Actually, I think now they might make rugged cases. It's weird because they skipped over my model, and who knows? Deep State could have paid them. Who knows? Right? Or extorted them. Well, they don't operate. They have an emulator that doesn't always work, especially on older apps, on the newer Surface Pros. Yeah, following too close to a semi-truck, that's an interdiction thing. Right. So the immigrant got pulled over on a interdiction thing. But the only thing is, you know, I go back to that. Don't lose focus on why you're elected. But you know, you got to let it play out. You can't just say, oh, you know, we're gonna do everything we said we're gonna do, even if it looks like it's not gonna work right. Right. Thanks, Larry. That's a standard pullover technique. Probably too close to a semi. So they're saying rules laid out by Congress, but is that a law? Right. But I think they do need a release to film anybody in custody. Correct. She looks nothing like she used to look. She changed her face more than we change our clothes, man. What makes your foreign policy? Yeah, all that surging that support hopefully works, right? The military people to do the admin work, right? There's a ton of admin work they can do, right? And again, you don't have to just like, it's not just to free people up because you got increased processing stress, right? So, stress in the system. Correct, Larry. Sorry, sir. Thank you, Larry. Right, we should understand about Scripture that it's all useful, but, you know, again, I'm not here to tell you the Book of Mormon's false. I'm not here to tell you that. But if you believe it's false, just if you read it, you'll see purpose. Right. It's kind of like Paul. Remember Paul? Jesus leaves the earth, and then Paul brings up, or Jesus brings up Paul. Correct. Well, it doesn't matter. If you're Jewish and you want to be Jewish, be Jewish. I'm not telling you not to be Jewish. Right. I'm just telling you there's other things. Why would God just pick you? I mean, does it make any sense to any of you?
انقدر گوشم نکن بیز دست زنی میگی بیز آسوسی بیلا میگیرم سیس ولی دفعمو میکنم بالا مثل همه بالا خراب تر از همه
Never seen so much hoopla over a flagpole. That dude's on growth hormone. Right. That's where I messed up. I was looking into it like right after I got out of right when I got to Naples. I started looking into it and couldn't get to it. You need money to make money, but you also need money to get anywhere. And that's what they did. They broke the system. Instead of rewarding us, it's taking it away from us because we don't have money. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Right. Now I should have been able to smooth into it and just get to it. Right. Probably wouldn't be like this. My back would have lasted longer. Right. Again, if they were forced to stay away, it would have lasted longer too. Yeah, well, I bought a bunch of these sauces. They're going to have to do. I might have to up the sodium a little bit by putting another spoon or two in. Okay. Or if I decrease the size of the serving, that might work too. No, it's really a delicious sauce. It's just, I used to use a lot more than I am now. Right. Right, so again, you know, there's something just, see, when I looked at CBP, something hit my head. Thanks, man. So, well, yeah, to make it clear, we're creating a legitimate work-based immigration list is what we need to do. So we're not looking for people because obviously they ruled out amnesty. Right? So we're not looking for people for amnesty. We're looking for people that are fresh that want to come into the country. Right? The dates of use are tentative, and they may not be anything. Just go in, put your information in, and we'll vet a certain number or pre-vet. That way, if we need them, they're there. Well, I don't know what to tell you if they actually come here too early. I mean, we'll find some. I mean, it may end up not being Latinos. We might end up finding people in other countries, right, that are looking for, they'll do the agricultural work, right. But again, if we have these tried and true employees, it's a hard way to go not to use them. Because again, if they haven't violated any laws in all the years that they were here, and they're working on the farms. Yeah, but I thought that was already out there where they could get their citizenship. That's a weird case. But the sexuality that's out there, I've studied sexuality from one end to the other. I'm not generally a sexual person, but I studied it, and she's a byproduct of what do they call that? Minor attract, the maps, right? So they get into her mind. You're just a map, and next thing you know, she's offending. So this is that mind. I told you that mindset is dangerous, right? Thank you. Well, they actually were mainstreaming being attracted to children, sexually attracted to children. I believe it was sexually attracted. I believe that's what they were speaking. Right. Or maybe even a relationship. I don't know. Well, it's all possession. It really is possession. So how does it move? What can be done to stop it? Right. What is being done to move it? Right. Thank you, Larry. But that's the era that she was in. I mean, she just came into her own. I mean, she's not all that old, right? She, all of a sudden she's in Mapland, right? Well, you look at how you grew up, and then you look at how other, you have to look at how they grew up. It's a way different world. Right? You can say Democrats all you like, but there are conservatives that want that to exist because they make money off it, to make politics off it. Well, that's where, see again, the legacy of all that shit, right? It even got, she's probably a Democrat, got her in trouble, right? 100%, Larry. The same thing with all these immigrants. Why? Because Biden let too many people in, or it wouldn't be such an exigent circumstance, right? Again, if you're one of the people that came here, went to work, and did what you were supposed to, then ask Biden why he let the other people in to make the mess. Because they're the ones that screwed you. They're the ones that made it necessary. Right. Correct, Larry. Well, you know what happened in the UK. It's what I told you. I told you years ago. You let them kill me. But I told you all the answers because they paid money. The Islamic people had, the oil well people and all that, and the oil money. They paid money into UK and set up the politicians, either extorted them or whatever, and then put them up, said, okay, here, as long as you do what we want, we won't put your dirty laundry out there. Right. And then on top of that, we'll pay you some money. Correct. We agree, Larry. Thank you, sir. But again, you can't go too far in street preaching. You really can't. You're actually offending people to a certain degree, and then that pushes them away from Christianity, right? You see this one?
on my knees, and then flat on my chest.
But you have to understand executive protection. It actually has nothing to do with ICE. It has to do with executive protection. Right.
Agreed.
Because they don't know what you're doing. You went nutso. I mean, if you want to go to your house or get online and go nutso like I do, that's one thing. But you're out there, not only in the public, you're in the public space where they're doing a private meeting, where they're doing the secretary of, she has like so many threats. I'll tell you right now, this man could go crazy, get a gun, and kill her if he wanted to, if that happened. Again, they're not wrong. Right.
Thank you.
I tell people don't even go on protest. If you're going to protest, you have a concert like Woodstock. Woodstock was a great idea. I mean, it was a little crazy, but right, they went away from D.C. They went away from where they would get arrested and just had a party and protested. Right. Right. So.
As I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained?
Because you went nutso in a federal building. Right.
Thank you, Larry.
I mean, people that actually go crazy in federal buildings are easier to handle than he was. They usually just walk around and say weird stuff. They don't like try to go after the secretary. Or a secretary, or even the office managers. Because it's just weird the way my life was. Because, like, this dude, this lawyer, he, like, loses, like, all of a sudden, I'll tell you what, I was waking up. The system and Satan knew I was waking up. I didn't know what I was looking at, though. I was trying to investigate stuff. I could have probably gotten in trouble. In the end, I wouldn't have gotten in trouble, because if the FBI would have interviewed me as, why are you looking up all these people that I was looking up, I'd have said, this is the case. And they didn't want the case. They just wanted me gone. Right. Thank you, Larry. So this guy, I told you before, I'd look at the wall and there'd be like these suicides, deputies committing suicide. And it'd be like, gung, 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 gung. So I read the one about the one in Miami, and this girl, like 10 feet away in our asset forfeiture section, I think she works, and she, yeah. And I go, and she had been in Miami. I said, do you know this guy? What's going on? He was in the Employee Assistance Program. And then they forced me into the Employee Assistance Program. They make up a charge. They fake a charge. Like, just like would be a reprimand or something, right? They go, we'll get rid of this if you go in there, And then they try to really kill me, Because now there's an excuse. He's in the Employee Assistance Program. That's why he's dead. So then, what's the other part? Oh, the other one I was going to talk about. Oh, the guy. Right. So I'm in the courthouse, and at that point, they still kept me as like the assistant to Slickster, who took over, court security, because now it's a promotable, payable position, right? So and that may be why they were killing me also. Like, they want to kill me out before they release that position, because they didn't want me to get it. So they like really messed up my life for a year or two, at least, before announcing the position. Right. So, because the CIA wanted Slickster in, because he's a crook. Right. So, like they are. Right. So I'm in a courthouse, and this guy, and I don't remember what I was doing, but this guy shows up, and they had him in the office, but he was busting out. He was leaving the office. They couldn't control him anymore. But I followed him around the courthouse for a little while. I was with a CS, so I started talking to him. And, from what we could figure out, he was an attorney. He just was something going on in his mind, and he was just really walking around the courthouse and doing stuff. And right, so eventually we got him out of there. We amboed him to the hospital, that kind of thing. But I mean, he didn't do anything. He just walk around and say weird stuff, right? So he could have been a victim of the deep state. It's very possible. Right. Well, because if they don't want you, like, they want that lawyer, if he represents somebody, to do what they want. They don't want him to do what's right. Right. So he may have just been thinning the herd and getting the other attorneys that are honest attorneys out. Right. What I didn't realize is for years, like, I could figure out how everybody was so successful. I didn't care about it so much because my income was pretty good, you know, in the Mars service compared to where I would have been in life. Actually, not really. If I'd have woke up in life and had a normal life, I'd have probably been, again, a billionaire, but at least a multimillionaire, right? So, right. The old government kept me asleep. See, this is the trick, is to get you places where they down you and destroy you and you don't wake up, right? I mean, still doing it. They do it here. I mean, these people are devils in Overland Park and Johnson County. It's a devil's stronghold. Thanks, Larry. So yeah, it was interesting when I was waking up, and again, a spirit, like, it didn't happen right away. A spirit came out, and it was represented as Ronald Reagan, and he was still alive and Alzheimer's, and a spirit was with me and took me over to my leave and earnings stand. I was laying in bed, and I guess something bad happened. I can't remember it, but it walked me over my leave and earnings statement, and it showed me the retirement. And I didn't just go. I was just like, you know, I understood what the spirit was. But it was weird waking up because it's a spirit talking to me and I'm not, like, thinking about it. Like, it didn't mean anything to me. It's speaking through me. Like I'm oracling it. Thank you, Larry. But they were covering over all my cues. There were other cues in there. So I go back and, I go back to work and things cool down because the two people had an internal affairs. The two main people that were involved in this thing had an internal affairs investigation, right? And so they kind of backed off and weren't doing anything, but they both were, exonerated, and then it fell apart. And again, I was hit pretty hard. It wasn't like nothing was going on. I mean, right. I guess the day before I called the chief, it was pretty bad. I was probably drugged, but I don't know if I was seeing something valid or not. Right. I was seeing a tragedy. So, like, if I had stayed in the government or stayed living where I lived, they may have moved to tragedy, right? Like a terrorist act. So I decided it was time to just, because in other words, the whole thing came up because the idea of pulling your gun out or not pulling your gun out is a big decision. And what they're doing, and they know they're doing it, they're trying to cloud your mind so you make the wrong decisions. Right? So there's no way to stay in government once they pushed it past a certain point. It's going to affect you. There's no way this idea that if you weren't guilty of a crime that none of this would affect you. There's no way that is at all true or could ever be true. Right? It's psychological torture. Right. It's based in, trillion-dollar government systems. So again, there are people that thought all they had to do was get me out of government and they were going to let me live a life after that, because that was a representation. And actually, I was just about told that out, but it was still like a veiled conversation. Right. Well, because I wasn't Slickster and I wasn't the other girl, the girl, Shelton, because I wasn't a crook. And they couldn't, they were, apparently Shelton had been trying to kill me for years. Right. And so was Slickster. So the CIA looks at that and they know what they're looking at. They can't kill me. So they come in and kill me. Right. Thanks, Larry. No reason for any to have gone, to tell you the truth. They're creating bullshit everywhere. Right. I'll explain the latest investigation in a second. Or not a second, probably about a day. Unless something comes up. Right. Well, I'm receiving blips that I need to continue on what I'm doing because somebody's looking at it also. So I shouldn't have let that out, but because that means it's probably over now. Right. Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Larry. Well, again, if you're a cop and you're representing that you're investigating me, there could be FBI can watch you and try to figure out what you're really doing or what your intentions are. So that's what that generally was and is. Right? I've been doing it for years on and off. Right. No, you just don't get to do what you want. It's just not how law enforcement is supposed to work. That's why everything's broken. Well, I think the Trump administration starts speaking about the mess Biden made and say, we didn't make the mess. I mean, you're saying it, but I don't think you're saying it right. Like there's an exigent circumstances, an emergency condition in the United States because Joe Biden let people in. Right. Is that yeah, there's a code book. Yeah, look, he doesn't look well at all. Right. He must have been inside. But again, that's a byproduct of the deep state. You'll find that if the deep state attacks you, like right now, the deep state's attacking me, and I'm trying to fight, get myself outside, get some sunlight, get some health, right? He could have been created by a spy organization. Correct. But he's inside. Again, I said the same thing about what's his name? Unabomber, right? Again, it doesn't have to be the agent that's investigating the case. They could just be, an innocent kind of thing. Right. And some of it's demonic. It's devilish. They think to you, and they create these mindsets. Oh, now she wants to say, what are they going to say? That I'm saying I'm Kohlberger or something? They're like weirdos, man. Every last one of them's a weirdo. It had some additional mental illnesses. This one, for some reason, it's a different set of AI stuff here, because it went past this and gave some specific mental conditions that it could cause. Right. Like I hit the dive deeper, I remember, but it was saying like schizophrenia and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't see it here. They may have blocked it. Right? Thank you, Larry. Actually, that's what I meant to hit over here. Okay, so this is the other thing. So like I said, I don't know if he actually helped the government or not. Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether he did or didn't. Okay, yeah, Iran might be calling me too. Somebody is. It's not threat. I don't answer it, so thank you, Larry. Somebody's been trying to get in my head on phone. You making phone calls? Oh, I got a bunch of them. I actually had a pretty good sleep, but there was a bunch of phone calls that kind of interrupting the sleep. Thank you, Larry. Yeah, as soon as I As soon as I blessed Israel, something picked up. So I'm looking at that also. Right. No, that's pretty funny. So I'm looking at that also. Yeah, Loomer's got to be careful. She's gonna get zapped eventually, and maybe after Trump, I don't know. She's a young person. Right. She needs to slow down. Right. She's coming against career people that worked hard to get where they did. Right. I mean, if they are really a double agent, that's something different. But right. Well, the administration needs some balance. Again, I'm surprised where Mike Lee went with stuff. It's kind of unhinged, some of it, because it doesn't make any sense. Right. Close the banks. Are you trying to say she's a man? I don't think so. They would already release the information if she was a man. Right. Yeah, I was trying to marry an Iranian woman if I could. A Persian woman, they called it. Right. They blocked everything. That's kind of weird. But again, I had to think through some things. Like, God showed me this, and I'm like, because I spoke about that dancing, didn't I? That I find it, his kids should not be taught that type of dancing. It's too sensual, right? Could be used for sexual purpose, that kind of thing. So, but the question in the end that came up was, well, what about your idea that people should have freedom to worship in the way that they can feel comfortable worshiping? And again, the same thing. Again, I'm not asking them to let me to their church. I'm not asking them to come to my church, but if that's the way, it's between them and God. I mean, Paul's clear on that. Right. I mean, yeah, maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right. I'm not going to make a judgment. Because we live in a world that's very different. Paul couldn't even totally comprehend this world, but he saw it coming. And he spoke about it. And what happens is people say, well, it hasn't changed that much, but it has changed. Right? If that's the way, like, in other words, I want people with God. I don't know, how each person gets to God. I just know that that's what the goal is. God deserves to be connected to creation, and creation deserves to be connected to God. You're disconnected. You're separated. Right. So this is the only way that they can worship, then, because that's the reality. You realize that conservatives may have cursed them in life or willed them in life for that to be the only way that they can go to church. The only way. And yet, what are we supposed to do? Say no? So I leave it up to God. See how that works? Let me check your uniform out. Let me see. I don't know. That's just not batting down too good. You mustn't be humping that hard. A lot of floppy gear there. It looks like a cop's outfit versus it. Right. A lot of weird stuff came up like that, like this one. Is that Barron Trump? No, it's not. It was news, Barron Trump news. But yeah, that comes up, stuff like that now. Like that Elon has to really look at that. Yeah, that's the original Barron Trump news, but it's not Barron Trump, and it's got that check mark. Right. So again, there's a lot of mess like that on X. Right. Just like I told you, like yeah, okay, Matt Gaetz isn't in the house, but he's having a great life. I mean, come on. Why are you stressing over it? You people got to be real. It's just like everybody else in government. Just a bunch of. It's just. It doesn't take that much thought to go in the right direction. Yeah, I told him I was going to. This one was going to. Right, when you go with the illegal aliens too much and the black people get rid of the Democrats, you lose the section of the vote. That's not going to happen. Well, see, he could actually be paid for that. You don't does his life go up after he says that? Michael Murray. but people like that, I'm actually a power. All these people, like some even hate me, but I'm actually a power that constructed their lives, civil rights, fairness, right? Even cops need civil rights. Not that awful. You're just weirdos, right? If you keep going against civil rights, eventually you cops are going to start losing your rights again. Because you're going to come against yourselves. I told cops years ago, like, be careful what you say about certain things, because cops need civil rights more than anyone else on the planet, right? Because of the work you engage in. I mean, you could be arrested and thrown in jail in a second, right? And many were. I kind of want I want a new Iran. I really do. I don't know if I'm going to wait 2 weeks, Trump. I like the Persian people. Who knows? Maybe in my afterlife I marry a Persian woman. I don't know. Maybe my family owes them. Maybe the diaspora owes them. I don't know. Maybe that's where we landed. I think that's where we landed. A lot of us landed in Persia. Right. Right. No, Hashem pays people back. I'm with Hashem, and we remember people. Right. Like if I was a jerk, I could have destroyed the planet years ago. I could really destroy it if I don't get. But I would have got, but I would have been a devil at that point. Right. Well, the Book of Mormon is obviously only so correct, but I believe it's spiritually correct. Again, you don't know how to. A lot of people don't know how to read the scripture. Right? I'm not perfect. I'm not telling you I'm a sinner saved by grace. But if you read the scripture, you'll understand how it works, and you actually have the information. Some of the information inside LDS. Right? The different. You can perceive there's different dimensions, different parts of the existence. Now, the part you don't know about the spiritual. The spiritual earth is in the Bible. Right? If you read about the ghosts, that's a different dimension. You can't see them, right? And again, Abraham speaks about the one thing, or in the Hebrews in the New Testament, Abraham apparently says, they asked Father Abraham for help. First off is, don't pray to Father Abraham for help, pray to God. So Hebrews, what is that, 11? I don't remember what it is. But he says he can't pass, we can't pass to hell, and hell can't pass here to here. So it shows the dimensions. Right. There's communication, but there's no way to pass. I believe that's been overcome, though. Oh, yeah, that must be part of it. Okay, so I had a vision, and there's Pope John Paul, there's Mother Teresa, and some other people. Again, the visions can be weird, but the idea is it's happening. And they're in hell, and they go into hell, and they're saving people. They're blessing them, healing them, and pulling them out. So basically, the baptism for the dead that the LDS does may actually be powering that. Because we were created in the image of God. We were created in the image to create. Now, where does destruction come from? It comes from the abusive use of creative power. Right. It becomes anti-power at that point. So when you think it, in this planet's kind of a chump change place. It happens but doesn't happen, right? But off of this planet, it can happen. So everything you think about here, like, I think the dead people should be able to be saved, right? Then you open a way where, maybe Jesus, John Paul, and Mother Teresa go in there and heal them up. And they get somewhere else, and then they maybe at a certain point return home. So one of the things I speak about, and I miss this part of it, I speak about, feed my sheep. Jesus spoke through a cartoon, a Christian cartoon, while I was sitting there watching with my daughter Diana, I think it was. Right. I was shattered. Like, oh my God, it was Jesus. So then it's probably like late 90s or something. Right. So then the vision is, what God makes clean, Peter's vision, what God makes clean, do not call unclean. Oh God, they're stopping the thought. Where was I? God's going to have to punish you till I get my thought back. That was the other thing I wish I'd have said it. Maybe I have it there. I actually probably should stop this and then listen to it, and I'll figure it out. Yeah, let me stop it here. And I'll just listen to what I was saying. Maybe I'll figure it out. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.